We move on to the next one, that is SDLC. So SDLC, it is nothing but it is like a structured process which is used to develop a software application efficiently and with high quality. And it define stages involved in software development, ensuring a systematic approach from planning to deployment and the maintenance phase. So yeah, as I said, it is having different kind of phases where we users in this SDLC. So we're going to talk about that one by one. So these are the common phases that we have. The first one, it is the planning phase, the requirement. So the requirements are given by the client or the customer. Okay, so it can be collected by either a business analyst or the product analyst. Maybe if it is a service-based company, then it must be a business analyst, and if it is a product-based company, then it must be a product analyst. He or she must be the one who has to get a requirement from the client, whatever the necessary functionality or the sub-functionality, like this is how the UI UX that he wanted in his application. And the second phase that we have is this requirement analysis, which the product or the business analyst give the requirement, whichever requirement that he or she get from the client. um, he or she used to check whether it can be possible to do or it cannot be do it, the sub functionality and the functionality and the sub functionality. So during this requirement study, there are multiple people involved in this specific discussion. Okay, so the first person who is the project manager who involve and determine whether it can be whether the requirement that can be doable or not. And also there is a architect who used to be there in in the discussion, where he can design how the module or the sub module or the feature that can be implemented in a high level, and also how this can be the component can be designed, and how the feature or the application blueprint it can be defined, kind of thing that they will be determined. And also there are other peoples like HR and the finance department who used to involved in that specific discussion. HR is to get the manpower of the application development thing, and also this finance department who used to determine there is a how much the cost it can use us for a application to build. So these are the people who determine whether we have enough cost or the manpower or the time that we to finalize it. Okay. And the third phase, it is like design phase, where we will be designing application. So before development and application, we must have to decide the architecture must have to design whether the application it could be in a monolithic or the microservices application. So monolithic is nothing but like it is a complete package, and where it can be deployed into some servers, and each component it can be dependent to one each other, but it can be completely packaged into one application. Okay, so and microservices, it is nothing but like we are having different kind of component that we uses in an application, right? So each component it can be in a Microsoft, I mean like microservices. So it it can be isolated in a specific way, that it can be deployed in a specific component in to our server, and it is interrelated to the one component to another component, so the application can be up and running, right? And yeah, we come up with a design. We go up with the designing the software, how the software it can be looks like, the UI UX design, and we have different kind of designing in our application, that high level design and the low level design. All right, so the high level design that can be determined by the architect, and the low level design that can be determined by the development manager. Okay, so if you see the high level design, so the architect is going to define it. Is going to design a module. Um, uh, Module is nothing but it is a major feature of an application, and the submodule is nothing but like it is a subfunction of the parent module. Okay, so he must have to define how the application that is going to be designed in the way how a end user customer can able to use their functionality. And the second one would be like low level design. So low level design is going to define by the development manager. In this he must be deciding that what are the component, so what are the components that we are going to use in this particular application, so that the application can be reliable, and how the application it anyway, if there are any application we wanted to provide them a quality application, right? So in this case, he must be responsible for getting this component ready, and what are the feature of an application, and how the application foundation can be. So you used to um, determine that one, and the next one would be like development phase. So development phase, it is developer has to look, so it is like coding application, so to write a code and develop the application. Okay, so developer, he most of the time you look at the design document based on the document that is provided by the architect and the development manager. Okay, so based out of the design of the document, developer writes code and develop the software in which the reference of the developer is design document. Okay, and the next phase would be that testing phase. So, testing phase, I would say testing phase play a crucial role here. So whenever there is a code developed, um, and if we do not test the code properly, we cannot able to release a product, and the software maybe that can end up with some corruption or the failure, right? So in order to avoid that, the software must have to test it really well with we have type of testing: unit testing, functional testing, integration testing, API testing. Most of the testing that we have is we are aware of it, right? So the testing is ensure that the software quality, also to ensure, and the design requirement that already provided by the design architect or the development manager, right? So it should have to match with the developed software by a feature or the sub feature in the design requirement. Okay, to ensure whether the functionality is working of the application is expected. Okay, so this is what the testing phase it is, and we move on to this deployment phase. So once the code is tested and it is okay that we can deploy this code to the end users, it is ready to serve, right? In this case, we um, are the operations team who has to build this specific code with the dependencies. So there are more dependencies that if there are a software that we have, we mostly build the software with the dependencies. So we used to build the software with the dependencies and ready for the release to the end users customers. So this is what it is, and once it is deployed, then it can be in a maintenance phase. So maintenance phase is nothing but like it is a monitoring phase where we can able to see what are the issues that we get. So in this case, once the software that is deployed and once it is with the end users, they used to test the functionality of it. Okay, So in there we have three different environment, which is SIT environment, UAT environment, and the production environment. So in this SIT environment, the developer they used to test their codes. Okay. So in the UAT environment, we used to provide the UAT server with the customer, where the customer they can able to test. So what are the requirement that they given? So those requirement, based out of the requirement, they will be testing, uh, like maybe the API testing, or they might do some um, sanity test, and they used to test on the UI level whether the functionality, like the icon or something, it is working as expected, or like they ask us to keep some tile over here in some specific places. So all these kind can be achieved or not. So they used to test that, and also they used to run some load test on this particular application, so they can able to get the performance of the application. And they used to run several test cases onto the application which is developed and deployed into the server. So whatever test cases they are running, we will be getting more logs, and it can be monitored, right. So those by using this particular monitoring tool, we can have all the logs. If there are any issues or anything that we encounter, or like based on the test cases that is provided from the client, we can again start the phase that to plan requirement analysis, and then design how we can able to achieve it, and develop again testing, deployment, and the maintenance. Okay. So this is how it is um, working in the SDLC. So this is what the development life cycle looks like. Okay. So so we'll move on to the next one, understanding of Agile and DevOps. So what is Agile? So Agile is a iterative approach to manage a software development life cycle, in which we have a different kind of phases, right. So if you see in a SDLC also, we had this requirement analysis, planning, developing the code, testing, and deployment, right. In this also we have two types of method. The one is waterfall model, and the another one is agile methodology. Okay, so we are not looking into this waterfall model, since most of the company we are not using it. Maybe I can go with the agile methodology. So agile methodology is nothing but it is a iterative approach to manage software development life cycle. So that focus only on the continuous releases and incorporating the customer feedback with each and every iteration. Okay, so in this case, iterative approach is nothing but we have a different phases, as we see that in the STLC we have a different phases in this agile methodology also, where we have this requirements, design, develop, code, testing, and deploy. Okay, and also it is mainly focused on the continuous releases. So if you see, this is how the agile leaders look like. So business analyst who used to get the requirement, and once the requirement is gathered, and then it is move on to this next phase, which is design phase, and then it goes into the development phase, and then it goes to the testing, and then deploy. So these process getting again and again. So this is what I mentioned this as a yeah, one minute. Yeah. So this is why I mentioned that this as a iterative approach. Iterative is nothing but it is keep on happening again and again. So once the developer used to develop something, and the test engineer used to test, and once the test it is passed, then it will get deployed, and once if there are any debug or something, or any new requirement that comes, it will again go and go. Okay. So this is how it is. Okay. So this is what the agile. So yeah, we'll look into this advantage of agile. So I have listed few advantages here. The one is speed of development. The speed of development instead of doing everything at once. So if you see in a waterfall model, the waterfall model, it can be like the requirement planning, it will go in a flow. Okay, so once the developer he used to write and complete it as code, then only he can able to send back this send the code to the test engineer. So then only he must be able to what test it. So in the meantime, developer he must be ideal. Okay, so he won't used to do any kind of task. So he must be ideal. Once it is tested, if it is okay or good to go, if it is not to go, then it will revert back to the developer and used to work, and the tester used to be ideal. So in order to avoid this situation, we come up with this agile methodology where everything work at once and work is divided into small parts, and the progress is happening quickly. Okay, and the next one, that would be the team collaboration. So earlier there were some issue that we see that whenever there is